GQI, for a show that is unashamedly kinky. Joining me on the top shelf at the newsagents tonight are dominatrix Janet Street Porter. None on the run, Sandy Toksvig. Naughty vicar Johnny Vegas. And kinky tinky winky Alan Davis. Right, so before we get down to business, I want you all to give me the horn. Janet goes...
You've been a very naughty boy.
Sandy goes... Johnny goes... And Alan goes... Whatever floats your boat. Now, on with our first question. Describe the technique of the world's greatest kisser.
Was there a contest?
There was.
An actual winner?
There was, and there was a winner.
Is it a human or
It was
an animal?
Have you been kissed by an animal, ever, Janet?
Donkey, maybe.
I've kissed...
But only in a
You didn't know?
A tiny, tiny bit of bile came up in the back of my throat.
This was a competition. And as you might imagine, if cliché were piled upon cliché, which nationality would win?
Scandinavia.
The
The Scandinavians? The Italians? No.
The French?
Les Français,
Oh,
oui.
yes, it's the
It was the
I
Français.
think it's the Scottish.
Have you found them particularly good osculators?
No, I just did a quick survey in my head. And I can only remember 4 countries. It certainly wasn't the Australians.
No. His name was André Brûlé. He was a famous actor in the first part of the 20th century, a rather stylish actor. And there was a competition. It was just after the First World War. It was in Biarritz. 80 participants, as far away as Russia and America, took part. And American kisses were described as flaccid.
Oh, I would have said forceful.
Forceful? No, you would have thought. Russians were eruptive. Italians, burning, which you'd think was good. Ardent is another word for burning. Ardent kisses.
I'm still on erupting kisses. What are those like?
Volcanic.
I think that was a bit second about
Oh, yeah,
That's not where you think you're getting a normal kiss and they suddenly stick their tongue out and you weren't expecting it.
That can happen. I know.
you kiss them and you put your hands up and shout, bingo!
But I'm afraid the word that was described for English kisses is almost all too predictable.
Cheap.
Frigid.
Wet.
Moist.
Frigid.
Tepid.
Tepid.
Oh, wonderful. How disappointed in nation we are. Spanish were vampirish, or vampirish, however you would say it. Vampire-like. But the winner, who, although he was a Frenchman, French kisses were described as chaste. Which is
Really,
most
French
unsurprising.
kissing is...
French kissing itself is far from chaste.
cataclysm.
It's cataclysmic,
Yes.
exactly.
No, the actual word for it is cataclysm.
Oh, is that what they call it?
It's called, yes, and it's something pigeons do, bizarrely. Who knew? When you see 2 pigeons billing and cooing, yes, they're actually sticking the tongue down each other's, yeah, and it's...
Not swapping pigeon milk.
No, so it's much better to say to somebody if they don't know what it is. If we want a French kiss, do you mind if we do a bit of cataclysm? And they're bound to say yes because they've no idea what it is.
Many think you cataglottism, which is the
Cataglotism,
tongue with
yes.
a glot. Cataclysm is a disaster.
No,
which
I
you
think
wouldn't want.
you misheard me. It's my Danish accent.
Oh, I see. Right.
Can I ask Sandy a question about the pigeons?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do they have sex through their mouths?
No.
Oh, how do they have sex, just by the way?
The normal way.
In the normal way.
Normal
they
way,
have
yes. Is this news to you? I know you've been married a few times, but you don't have children, do you?
No, I don't have children, but I've never had sex with a pigeon either. I just...
Can I just
Call
say...
yourself a Londoner.
The pleasure of Janet questioning 2 homosexuals on this subject is...
You're going nature shop. They're doing it! No, they're feeding.
Do you have any familiarity with anything kinky, though?
Yeah, I once had a boyfriend who said he wanted me to tie him up and be a dominatrix, and he booked a suite in a hotel and ordered a load of drinks, and just as the butler brought the drinks, he got out a dildo and a pair of handcuffs, so I had to sit on both sex toys at the same time.
Oh, my God.
Anyway.
Sit on the handcuffs.
I sat on everything. I didn't want me to be associated with all this hardware.
Oh, to sit on them to hide them?
Yes.
Surely. Were they furry handcuffs?
No, they're normal ones, and in the morning when he was asleep, I just handcuffed his foot to the end of the bed and left.
Wow.
You should have made him finish your book first.
Was it just men in the kissing competition?
Yes, it was.
I suppose they wouldn't have had women showing off the kissing technique, that would have been thought to be
Not
appalling.
not in those days, exactly.
What was he kissing? The back of his hand?
No, he was kissing women, but he was kissing them. It wasn't a mutual kiss, if you sort of mean. He gave them kisses. The idea was the technique, he would grab their waist and sort of push himself down. The whole thing was almost like a sort of ballet dance. It was not about the actual sort of long snog. It was about the elegance with which you did it, and that's where he won his awards. And there's a very famous photograph, you probably know, of a similar kiss, which is amazingly evocative of a great victory, VJ Day.
Ah, the one with the sailor and
The sailor and the woman in New York, which is hugely famous. And in 2012, that recently, they were reunited. They're both alive. Her name is Greta Friedman, and he is George Mendonça. They had never met. He just simply saw her in the street, swooped her up and kissed her, and the photographer got virtually the photograph
Didn't
of the...
she rather famously slap him afterwards?
She was not pleased at all, no, absolutely. But when they had a reunion in 2012, they were very friendly, and she realised it was a fabulous moment. He was swept up in the joy of VJ Day.
So did they shag?
I think not if she slapped him afterwards, although...
I mean,
probably...
on the reunion.
On the reunion?
That's my point. You know, when there's no,
Yeah.
you know, victory anywhere day, and you're just speed dating and you do that.
Then you're not likely to be
Somebody takes a
thanked.
picture.
Yes.
No, you're likely to end up in a court with injuries for you lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. The world's greatest kisser was a French actor named André Brulé. But who was the most shocking kisser of all time?
Thor.
Oh, hello. There we've got two... they're probably called...
Britney Spears and Madonna.
That is, you can just see, is what pigeons do. That's...
Oh, yes.
There was only one marshmallow left.
I've only ever had one screen kiss, and it was with the wonderful American comic Mike McShane.
Oh, yes.
Mike McShane.
You did a sitcom
We
with
did a
him.
sitcom together. And he knew I was very nervous about the kiss, because I wanted it to be... I didn't want it to be comic, I wanted it to be real. There's always that worry when you're doing a comedy. And he knew this, and so I was very anxious. And the very first time, he leant down, and he kissed me and passed me an anchovy with his tongue. I was less nervous after that.
Yeah, I had a film where I had to kiss Jude Law and Ewan Griffith. It was awful. And nude. Oh, God. Misery. But anyway, shocking kisses. That's, I suppose, shocked some people because it's lesbiotic, but...
Lesbiotic? I must go home and give the good news. So are we talking about a screen kiss, or are we
No,
talking...
I'm talking about the word shocking. Thank you, Alan.
Is it something electrical to do?
Yes, the Venus Electrificata. It's one of those things. Whenever you invent a new technology, people experiment with it in extraordinary ways. And of course, electricity. When the power to generate electricity first arrived, people tried all kinds of exciting things with it. And one of them was to suspend a woman such that she was not earthed, and then get men who were earthed to kiss her. And you can see he's winding round in order to create an electric current. And you kiss them and you get a tingling feeling.
Well, we used to, when I was a kid, I grew up in the United States, we used to have electric shock parties, because you had very cheap...
You put your tongue on the batteries?
No, you had sort of cheap nylon carpet, and we'd turn the lights out, and everybody would stand and rub their feet on the carpet like this, and then they'd go, now, and you'd all kiss, and there'd be a little spark.
Yes, we used to do that at prep school. We had an area which we cut off for the ponies to graze, where we did the electric fence. You grab the electric fence, and the shot would go through like a wave through the whole line of us. It was kind of rather fun. There was also Stephen Gray and his amazing orphan boy, who he hung down and put a current through him, and the current attracted various objects. And this became so popular, he actually made a kit. You had to provide your own boy, but otherwise you had the kit with various glass rods and things like that the electricity would pick up. But as with all new inventions of any kind, people are going to try...
Electric cock.
Yes. And it was discovered in ultraviolet light. Johann Ritter decided he would try... In the early days, there was what was known as a voltaic pile, i.e. a battery, and he basically tried it on his groin. And he described it. His organ began in a state of medium swelling, what we call a semi, I guess. He wrapped it in a piece of cloth, I hope you're taking notes at home, moistened with lukewarm milk. That's lukewarm. Try it, put your elbow in it, and if it doesn't burn, and it's not cold, like with a baby's bath, OK, you're following, you're taking notes, I'm doing it slow enough, then delicately you touch the wire from the positive pole to the cloth, and in the other hand, you close the circuit. A shock jolted him, followed by a pleasant tingling. The swelling continued. Warmth spread from his groin, and then, finally, consummation.
You're sitting in your house and the lights start flickering and you know he's at it next door with the milk cloth.
Yes. I mean, I'm sorry.
Channel 5's gone off, it'll be him next door with the milk.
Every Christmas, they always say when all the lights go down and you can't cook your turkey, it's because we're all watching telly. It's not, because all over Britain people are...
trying basically lukewarm milk on there.
Milk on their willies.
Yes.
I shared a dressing room for a while with a very short actor, and I came into the dressing room one evening. I think I was a bit early, I wasn't expecting him. He was completely naked, and he was trying to get his entire genitalia up into the basin. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a good idea." I said, "What?" I'd got some muscle heat rub. He thought, but it feels so nice on your leg.
The men are wincing already in the audience. I'm sure Alan has many similar stories to tell. Here's a really weird one. In 2005, a boy was admitted to hospital with 2 neodymium magnets, the strongest permanent magnets known to us, trapping a fold, shall we say, of his penis. He claimed that he'd fallen down, or they'd fallen down his trousers while he was playing with them. But they were so strong that they didn't know what to do. Magnets can be demagnetized by heating them to a very high temperature, which wouldn't be very kind, or they could be hammered apart. So they were faced with a real medical problem to save this boy's future, as it were. So they tried alternative solutions, such as bigger magnets. In the end, they managed to remove them by shearing the magnets away from each other, moving them perpendicular to the force of attraction. So, don't try those magnets at home. Anyway, let's move on. What's going on here?
Ooh. Are they
not a word as a piece of glass?
Kissing fish.
Are they fighting?
They're fighting.
I think they're called kissing fish, but
Yeah, but
because
that
it's
may
what
well
it
be.
looks like. But
But they're
not kissing, they're fighting.
Exactly right. Gourami is their name. They don't kill each other by doing that, but one of them will get really knackered and sometimes dies of exhaustion. It's never utterly fatal.
It looks like the end of a balloon, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? It's just like the end of the balloon. But what other fighting fish do we know?
Oh,
The what do you find? It's fighting fish.
well, they call them samurai fighting fish, but...
Not samurai, no. Siamese fighting fish. Very popular. They're used like cockfighting as a sport. They keep each separate in a little, just alone in a tank, so it doesn't waste its energy by seeing another male.
There's another version and they have little swords.
Well, they're really vicious fighters, and the one that loses just flees for its life, basically. But you bet on them, essentially. It's like cockfighting used to be.
They're not the fish that eat all that spare skin off your feet, are they?
Oh, supposedly,
Have you
that's
done
right.
that,
Have you done that? Yeah.
No, I'm a bit worried that if I
Really?
put my feet in the hot water with a little fish...
This is for pedicures, where they put these tiny little fish in, isn't it? And they supposedly nibble away at your dead
Did
skin.
Been
you
more
wear
worried
any
that they
feet
didn't
on?
want my feet.
That's an
Put your
insult.
feet and they all go to the side again. Get a little mouthwash.
I've done it. At first, it's really strange, and then when you get used to it, what's stranger is 15 people filming you. Like you've got your feet intact going, ooh.
You did it on a for TV thing, did you?
No, I just did it in a shopping centre.
And 15 passers-by decided...
Yeah, just went, oh,
there's
look
that
at-
Johnny
look at-
Vegas having
there's
his
that
feet...
Johnny Vegas getting off and putting his feet in water.
Yeah. They have a lung-like organ in their bodies, these fighting fish, which means that they can breathe air. And actually, if we had enough supersaturated water with oxygen, we would be able to breathe water. And some people believe this is the future of the human race for, for diving and space travel and things like that, that we actually breathe water.
You do know after this I'm going to go home and drown.
No, I'm going to write out the list.
I take in bits of what you say to me
That's-
and then guarantee my family it's safe. Stephen said I can breathe underwater.
There are certain earlier things.
I am the future!
There are some earlier things I've recommended that you can certainly do, but not the breathing of the water. But the lukewarm milk is fine, you can try that. Yeah.
I'd rather just drink it.
Sorry. God. Yes, I understand. So, good. When Gourami appear to be kissing, they're actually fighting. What's so attractive about ordinary people? Not the movie, which is a very fine movie, of course.
It's
No,
them
tell them
massive cars they drive. Buses.
more. Ordinary people drive buses. Well, you mean ordinary people are on buses?
Yeah.
Well, it's not quite symmetry. This is known as coenophilia, and it seems that if you take 2 not very good-looking people and merge their image, people are more likely to be attracted to them. And Galton, who was a famous criminologist and was interested in the appearance of criminals, thought he would try and find the absolute criminal type by taking photographs of criminals and merging them. And he was astonished to find the more he did so, the more pleasant they appeared to be. So you average out people's looks, and we are more attracted to that, it seems. We've actually done a little merge of some of our friends around the table just to show you how attractive you look when you put them together.
Oh, yeah.
Ta-da!
Oh, yeah.
It's Jean from Tenerife.
Oh, no, we look like a tennis player.
You do look like a tennis player with an open piano lid. It's very nice. And let's try the other 2.
Serial killer.
Let's not have children.
The eyes...
Police are currently looking for...
There's something a bit odd about the eyes there. From your photograph, though, Johnny.
You just look like the biggest idiot in the world.
I think someone took your photograph and did one of those, you know, red-eye things.
No, he looks like someone who walked in and caught his parents having sex and they didn't stop.
Was the sort of man the police say, oh, he was quiet, always kept to himself?
Yes, he was just perfectly nice.
He used to cry a lot at Christmas.
Now, what would you keep in one of these? I have one. There it is.
Oh. Is it a
penis.
Is it
Yeah,
a bit-
penis is the right answer, Alan. It usually is the right answer.
Is it from the...
Is it hollow?
Is it an African?
It's hollow, obviously, otherwise you'd have trouble keeping it in.
Is it from Africa?
It's not from Africa, no.
Where's it from?
It's from Papua New Guinea.
It's what anteaters were when they're going to rob a post office. It's just that little bit of disguise. Is that you, Frank? No. Oh, no.
I've been to Papua New
They
Guinea
can
and
be
I've
different
seen
sizes.
it wobbly-wobbling
They can
about.
be like this. But, oddly enough, they're not worn for status. They don't deliberately have a big, thick one like that in order to suggest greater manhood. They often have a thin, rather strangely trailing away one with a few hairs on the end, like this, exactly.
That would really confuse Bugs Bunny. And how to de-wab it! Maybe I just want to be friends.
What's it made of?
It's a gourd. It's a
like
penis
this-
gourd, and it's a sort of relative of the squash family, I think, isn't it?
I went to Papua New Guinea. And
Amazing place.
It's fantastic. And I was taken to this remote island on a boat, and then they painted me with war paint and presented me with a pig and a pile of yams.
Oh.
And then they did these gourd dances.
Brilliant, right at you.
Right
Wow.
at me, yeah.
They
It's
dined
really,
on yams and
really
clams and
impressive.
human hams and vintage coconut wine, the taste of which was
fabulous.
filthy, but the after effects divine. I said, no,
I feel just like that in a taxi rank in Wigan.
But amongst the tribes that have these kotikas, as they're called, are, in case there's any members watching, and I won't leave you out, the Lani, the Mi, the Amundme, the Komoro, the Yali, the Damar, and the Moni. And the government tried to make them illegal and sent them all clothing. And for so many generations, they'd gone without clothing and been totally nude, except for these penis gourds. The clothing actually gave them rashes. And all they do now is they use shorts, sometimes, to put on their heads. But they continue to go naked.
I love the fact that when you read the tribes out, you went, you know, not to offend anyone, that would be a brilliant point of view when they turn up.
Yes, it would. Yes.
You missed out my tribe!
Yes, in an otherwise thoroughly enjoyable programme. Exactly. So, how did a bunch of choir boys plan to drive Hitler mad? We've been very literal there. There's Hitler in a straitjacket.
It's a plot. I do know this.
Yeah.
Porn.
Pornography.
Pornography. They were going to drive him mad with pornography.
That's absolutely right.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
They had groups called the Cowboys,
Yeah.
who were behind enemy lines, and
yeah.
the choir boys were the people in Washington.
That's
They
right.
came up with bonkers ideas.
All kinds of suggestions. I mean, like we did too. Bouncing bombs, ridiculous. And yet that was one that worked. And Churchill chose the date precisely in May 1943, when the floods were at their full height in the dams, and he was in Washington, so that if it worked, he could announce it. And it would be the first real invasion into German territory that caused a massive difference. And Lord Charwell, his scientific advisor, said to him reportedly, but what if it doesn't work? And Churchill said, then no one will ever hear anything about it. Mm-hmm. And that's the point about these mad schemes. There were all these kind of, you know, really zany plans, but most of them we don't know about, and a lot of them were covered up, and probably we never will. We know about the ones that work.
But
This is one that didn't work, but we do
smut,
know about
wasn't it? It was smut. They were going to drop
Basically, it's pornography.
smut
Yeah.
all over Germany.
Well, particularly to drive Hitler mad
Yeah.
over Berchtesgaden, where his residence.
So leaflets were going to cascade down.
It was going to
from
drive
the
him
sky.
mad.
Absolutely. The US Army Air Corps described it as insane and refused to do it. But it did have an important role to play, pornography. And, of course, these were ones that the Germans dropped on the Allies, because they did the same thing. Germans and Japanese. We didn't have much of a porno war effort in Britain. We were squeamish, the senior officers. One was quoted saying he would rather lose the war than take part, which is extraordinary. Air Marshal Sir Arthur Bomber Harris didn't approve, said it was just like sending them free lavatory paper.
What does it say about our troops, that the German troops are willing to drop the pornography, and I was like going, well, I'm not giving it away. Keep
I
it,
like to
Frank.
think it was a more decent reason than that, Johnny.
We'll sell it when we get back.
Dropping leaflets was a big thing. The first the Danes knew of the Germans invading, really, was that the leaflets.
Yes,
were
leaflet dropping generally.
them, yeah.
Huge thing, absolutely right. It was what's called a sort of black op, I suppose we call now.
The bouncing bomb would be a war crime now, wouldn't it? For the civilians killed.
There were a lot of civilians killed. I don't know if it was a legitimate war target or not. In total war, really, I don't think it
think
was.
since they've agreed.
There was a very good story I came across when I was writing a script for the Downbusters. And there was one of the members of one of the crews which crashed after dropping its bomb and was picked up by the Germans. And they were treated pretty well. And one said, well, what do you need? You know, according to the laws of the Geneva Convention, are you thirsty or hungry? I said, a glass of water would be lovely. And he said, are you joking? You have just destroyed our water supply. And that was the first time the guy realised that one of the bombs had actually worked. And that's how he found out that the Myrna had gone, because he was saying there is no water, which is quite sweet in its own peculiar way. Anyway, one mad idea to bring the war was to use pornography to drive Hitler mad, as if he wasn't already. So, anyway, which of these foods would give you the same number of calories as used in the average sex session?
I don't think it's a lot of...
You don't think it's many
I think
calories?
it's quite a lot.
You think it's a lot?
You think it's pizza lot?
I think it's about 400 calories.
400 calories, which would be a good pizza at least, wouldn't it?
Maybe a slice of pizza, not a
Slice of pizza. Yeah, you think it's fewer?
I'm going to go for the steak.
Well, it's interesting.
Gonna go for the burger.
You'll have the burger.
I'll have a slice of tart.
You'll have a slice of tart. Hey.
But without the bread.
Without the bread. And
I
what about
like
you?
the courgette and the shrimp. 'Cause
That's
it's got
probably pretty
quite
good.
a lot of possibilities.
Yes, that is a good one. Well, David Allison, who's a biostatistician at the University of Alabama, looked into it. And the average sex session takes only 6 minutes.
What, from beginning to end?
So the amount of calories used would be 20. That's about the same as 1 egg white or a very small meringue. You are.
Does the 6 minutes include the bit where you watch the news? Is it...
To see if you've made it on.
Well,
we've done it. Let's put the news on.
these figures are obviously up for argument. 2008 survey by Durex, who might be regarded as having a sort of vested interest as makers of oh, that's the Graduate, isn't it? To the stage version. Anyway,
She's got that look, hasn't she?
she has. That was a disappointment,
Yeah.
quite clearly.
That was half a round.
Yeah.
You're trying to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson?
Anyway, Durex reported the average Briton enjoys 22.5 minutes of foreplay, while another survey at around the same time in Men's Health claimed that British men only last 18.64 minutes from foreplay to climax. So if we level out those different statistics, we could argue that British men take, in terms of actual intercourse itself, minus 3.86 minutes. So, if you want to work off the weight gain by eating a tiny meringue, sex should do it. Now it's time for one of my knickknacks, a little scientific experiment. All I have to do, yes, I know, it's terribly exciting, isn't it, is bring up this. I don't know if you can see in here, tiny little grains of a little kind of little crystalline matter, and a bottle here.
Salt and vinegar.
Oh, it looks like salt and vinegar. Bizarrely, that is what is used for flavouring salt and vinegar, sodium acetate. It's got caustic soda and vinegar, which is what makes sodium acetate, and it's then dissolved slowly in water. It's very unstable. If I shook it, it would instantly crystallise, so I'm going to be very careful about this. But if you add it to crystals, it also crystallises, and I hope to make a dildo for you.
Oh, good.
A dildo just out of this liquid. I'm going to stand up to do it if the camera allows me to, because it needs a steady hand, and I need to keep rising as I'm slowly pouring. It's a bit like making mayonnaise, you know, very slowly adding the...
It's nothing
oil.
like making mayonnaise.
No, you very slowly...
You're making a phallus.
You very... No, in terms of the making, but in
This
terms
could
of the
ruin
pouring...
Mother's Day for some people.
Slowly pour it. Can you see there's a tiny bit of crystal on there? It's a really very, very small amount.
Yeah, yeah.
OK, here we are. I've got a steady, slow stream. Let's just hope it works.
I say.
It's a snowman dildo. We're walking in the... We're going to land for just a while. Snowman needs his private time. Get off me back.
It's not very easy to do. I've got to keep doing higher, otherwise it'll touch itself and then it will blow back into the bottle. Well, there you go. How's that? It's exothermic nucleation for the science heads out there. It's slightly warm. It feels rather gorgeous. And, I mean... it's a nice...
It made one earlier.
It's a nice consistency. It's not poisonous, it's not dangerous, but it's a wonderful effect, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
I like
gorgeous.
it.
Yeah, there you are. It's not an absolutely perfect dildo, but...
What's disturbing is it looks like mine.
Yes. So that was the super-saturated sodium acetate knick-knack. And these are the final scores. And for possibly the first time, we have 3 people on plus scores. It's thrilling.
What?
The winner with 11 is Sandy Toksvig. In a very, very fine second place with 3 points is Johnny Vegas. And with a shatteringly impressive +2, Janet Street Porter. Brilliant. And the only one plunging into sub-zero conditions, I'm afraid, is Alan Davis with -15. So it's good night from Sandy, Johnny, Janet, Alan and me. Be very, very special with yourselves. Goodbye. Bye.